What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So I know I haven't made too many YouTube videos in quite a while. It's been a couple of months, but I've just been extremely busy with my personal job. And then also this particular deal has taken up a lot of my time as well, which is what I want to talk about in this video today. So essentially kind of moving forward with this channel, I'm not really too sure of how, I want to move forward with it in terms of the content that I want to put out there. Something that I am really passionate about is the real estate market and the real estate space. So I do want to put more content in regards to that out there in the coming, in the coming days, the coming weeks, coming months. And I think a lot of you might be able to relate to me and my journey in the real estate market because, I'm figuring out things as I go along. And I know that there's a lot of people on YouTube right now that are buying, 100-unit deals, 50-unit deals. And some of you, may not be able to relate too much to that. But for me personally, I just graduated college about 2 years ago. And I've been, kind of showing you my process of buying different types of deals. If you have been a part of this channel for a while, you've seen the very first deal that I bought, which is the home that I'm living in right now. It is a duplex. I live in one of the units, I rent out the other. And I think that's a great way for anyone to get started because you can actually get into those deals with a very low down payment. So if you want to check out that video, I'll put it above right here so you can kind of go back and watch that. But I just released that video about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And this particular deal is my kind of first investment property that I'm not going to be living in. So I'm going to talk to you about how I found this deal, how I negotiated the deal, how I was able to get financing, how I structured the deal, all the numbers, and then most importantly, what the value add is in this deal as well. So there's a lot of things to talk about. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through all of this in this video today. I kind of want to make this video somewhat short, maybe 10 minutes or so. And then if I have to kind of make additional series in addition to this, I would definitely be open to do that as well. And maybe even showing you the property in person is something that I kind of had in mind as well. So to kind of start off, this video is going to be kind of raw. I'm not going to be cutting it or editing or anything like that. I just want to talk to you about how I was able to first find this deal. So if you guys are familiar, there is a service out there called Batch Leads. You do have to pay to be a part of this service, but essentially what this allows you to do is you can actually skip trace different types of leads that you want to find in your area. So for me personally, I was able to pay for a list that were multifamily properties in the different types of areas that I wanted to invest in, kind of close to where I live personally right now. So I found this list, and essentially what I did was I went through each of the numbers and I was able to use their text blasting service, and I was able to just send text blasts to many of these different types of contacts, ranging from duplexes, triplexes, 4 units, and then also even apartment complexes, which is one that I ended up buying. So once I was kind of going through these lists, it's kind of crazy the responses that you can get in some of these people that responded back, which, I don't blame them. They probably get people reaching out to them all the time, and that could get annoying. And even for this particular deal, the seller that sold me this deal, I don't remember the exact conversation, but I could probably go back to Batch Leads and find that message. But essentially, they were not interested in selling this property at all. They were saying, like, if you're soliciting or if you're trying to buy this property located at this address, I'm not selling. Leave me alone. Don't contact me again. Don't call me again. And then, I kind of responded with something, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit in texting. And essentially, what the seller said was, "Hey, my husband's coming home. I'm gonna have him call you, and then you guys can just talk." So I said, "Okay, let's do that." And then I jumped on the phone with him, had a pretty good first conversation. We kind of ended it there, and then I called back. I followed back up in a week. He said, "Hey, follow back up again in a week," and I did that kind of multiple times. I continued following up, and that process probably took about 5, maybe 6 weeks of a phone call every single week. Right? I was just waiting on. I think it was like a Sunday night. He's like, "Call me on Sunday." Okay, boom. I called him on Sunday. A week went by. Called him next Sunday. A week went by. Called him next Sunday, and I kept doing this for about 5, maybe 6 weeks. And I started to build some rapport with this seller. And I think that's something that is so important to do in this real estate space is kind of give these sellers a different experience that a lot of these other investors aren't giving them. So I was really making it personal. I was like really trying to learn more about what he does for a living and all that kind of stuff. And then we ended up actually scheduling a time for me to come out and visit the property and kind of walk through it and see exactly what I was getting myself into. So then when I did that, that all went good. And then one day he called me and said that he wanted to accept my offer. So essentially, how the offer kind of was based out of is first, he wanted $795,000 for this 6 unit apartment complex. I knew by basing my numbers, and I'm going to show you this a little bit later in the video of kind of how I based my numbers, but that just did not work for me. So then I countered at 695, and then he countered me at 710, and then I gave him my best and final at $725,000, but I asked him to bring $5,000 in seller concessions. So if you don't know what seller concessions are, it essentially is just a credit that they give you at closing. So essentially I bought it for 720, but it just allows me to get into the deal with not bringing $5,000 less out of my pocket. So it just kind of helped me with the down payment because he was actually able to give that as a credit at closing. So I was able to kind of bring $5,000 less down, and I just kind of have that, tied into my mortgage, if that makes sense. So if it doesn't, let me know, and I can even make a whole separate video of what seller concessions are. So essentially, I got under contract. I put a $2,000 earnest money deposit down, and I did a 60-day close, and I used every single day of this 60 days. So I got under contract around May 1st of 2022, obviously this year, and I closed on it July 1st of 2022. So I used that entire 60 days, and I could have even used a little bit more, but I was able to kind of get it all figured out on time to close on July 1st, just this past Friday. So that kind of is just a really rough overview of how I found the deal, how I negotiated the deal, and I really do want to go more into depth on these topics because those topics alone are so important to be able to get to the actual deal. So anyways, if you want me to kind of make a separate video of how I was able to negotiate this deal and kind of my tactics on negotiating, talking with different types of sellers, let me know and I can make a separate video on that as well. But essentially what the deal is and the value that I saw on this deal was it is a 6-unit apartment complex. It is a 2014 year build, and it's in a phenomenal area. So very close to where I grew up. I know the area very, very well. And what I really liked about it is, number one, is a 2014 build. So it didn't, I wasn't expecting it to have too many different types of repairs that needed to be done. And then also it has a 15-year tax abatement on this property. So if you're not familiar with what a tax abatement is, essentially what it is the city gives these different types of tax abatements to different investors to pretty much have them build in their city to kind of attract residents to their city. And with the 15-year tax abatement, it pretty much allows them to reduce their taxes a great amount. For this example, 15 years. Some tax abatements can be 5 years, some can be 10 years, but this particular one was for 15 years. So if you do the math, in 2014 when it was built, 15 years from now, I still have about 7 years or so of this tax abatement left on this property where I'm paying very minimal amount in taxes. I pay around a little over $2,000 a year on this apartment complex, which is just unheard of. I mean, there's properties in the area that are single family that pay up to $10,000 a year in taxes. And for me, that is a huge cost save, which just goes to, which essentially has more money in my pocket at the end of the day. So that was a great kind of value add that I saw in this property. And then number two is this property currently has very low rents. So compared to the market, the rents were really low, and I saw that as a value add. Essentially, the rents in this property were $5,300 at closing. So currently, they bring in around $5,300 a month for all 6 of the units combined. And I really believe that I can get these rents up to, in about a year or so, once I kind of stabilize the property and raise the rents accordingly compared to the market rate. And these tenants are still going to be getting a good deal at the rents that I plan on raising it to. But I think I can get around $6,000 to $6,300 a month in income from these rents. And just by increasing the rents by, from $5,300 to $6,300, that's $1,000 increase in income. And if you annualize that, that's $12,000 a year. And if you are familiar with how to value multifamily real estate, you value it based on a net operating income approach based off of the cap rate in the area. So by increasing it $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. If you have an investor that is looking to and that is willing to buy these types of properties at a 6.5 cap, which is pretty common in our area. Obviously, investors want a little bit higher, but there are investors out there that would buy at a 6.5 cap. That is an additional $185,000 in value that I was able to add to this property by just increasing the rent $1,000 a month. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's the power of investing in these multifamily assets. By increasing $1,000 a month, that actually in turn increases the value of the property by $185,000. And that could even be more if there's an investor that's willing to buy these types of properties at a lower cap rate than 6.5. So pretty much, I'm kind of running out of time right now. In the next video, I want to talk a little bit more about how, the deal itself and what my return is, how much money I had to put down in this deal, and what my cash on cash return is. Because if you watch my previous videos, cash on cash return is huge, and that's really what I base a lot of my numbers off of. And for this one, the cash on cash return isn't the greatest right now with the current rents, but once I increase the rents to where I believe they could be, the cash on cash return is going to be over 10% based on what I was investing into this deal. So pretty much is kind of how I want to end this video. Is I want to explain, a little bit more about how I structured this deal itself, how I was able to get proper financing on this deal to make this deal work, and what those terms look like. And I also want to make a video of me walking through the property and kind of showing, maybe even one of the units. And I think right now, before I end this video, is I want to show you just a quick overview of what the unit actually looks like. So let me just share my screen here. So just to kind of end this video off, this might kind of sound like it was an easy process when I'm explaining all this, but if I'm being honest, this is the biggest investment property that I've been a part of, that I've purchased before. Obviously about this one, the one that I'm living in, but this is one that I'm actually not living in, and it is a big purchase for me. And I had a lot of sleepless nights and uncertainty on if I was able to get this deal to the finish line. But essentially what I learned in this process is that when problems come, I just solved them and moved on to the next issue. And that's really one of the main things that you need to realize when being in this space and being in the real estate market is problems are going to come, and it's our responsibility to solve those problems. That's it.